but he's very angry that no one takes his theory seriously. And he doesn't understand why professionals are ignoring his theory. And he's like, I'm not going to be Mr. Nice Guy anymore. I want to be taken very seriously. It's like, okay. It's like, this isn't like racist shit. I'm not going to I looked at this briefly. It's not like racist or like horrible like shit here. It's not that bad. He got bent. Yeah, it's like, okay. It's like, okay. What's the thing? I have a fucking reaction show. That's what I do here. I'm reacting to philosophy. I was like, all right, let's go take a look at some guy's pet theory and see what it is. So, should I even bother with this? I don't know. Let's do it a little bit more properly. I'll even put his name down. Or put his stuff down. What did I do? Okay, here we go. So we can at least take a look. Okay. So here's a little brief. I normally read published stuff, but I just wanted to take a look at this. I was like, fuck it. I'm going to go take a look at this shit on stream. Experiential empiricism without realism. And I apologize to all the professional philosophers in chat, because we do have some professional philosophers in chat. You're just going to be eye rolling. Sock says, I think there's a group of individuals who want to destroy authentic people in which they believe their ideology and push them to the center, but I don't believe that it pushes the individuals to the center on their own accord. Yeah, there's a lot of jerks out there, and there's people who are mean, and they think everyone else is just as stupid and mean as they are. And so you are correct. I agree with you. Now, how you deal with them, I guess, that's a harder question. Like, I don't know how to deal with them. Just people who don't really understand what's going on, and they want to like drag everyone down with them. But yeah. Now, if you think the best way is through like a political, like religious-y style, you have a authentic version of the truth. I'm describing attorneys. Yeah, some of them. Yes. Maybe that might be the best way, but like I'm not the right person to ask on that question. Like, Bauerday might know better, political theorists might know better, or religious theorists might know better, or political people. But like I don't know at that point. Okay. Empirical non-realism. Yes. This is what I'm sorry. I already apologized, Valpo. I already apologized. Experiential empiricism without realism. And this is the expanded 2025 version from September 2025. So this is the expanded version. Keep that in mind. It's 11 pages. There are references here at the bottom. So it's not like it's unreferenced. Although you'll see exactly how well referenced this is. We don't read abstracts here because he has to actually make his case in the paper. Let's see. Contemporary empiricism rests on... drop the music. Contemporary empiricism rests on a fundamental assumption that has never been adequately justified. That our observations somehow represent or correspond to a mind-independent external reality that causes those observations. That's fine. That's plain old skepticism. Like, that's okay. Observations represent or correspond to a mind-independent reality. The man's a solipsist. Cool. All right. I got that. That's a fine theory. You can just go from that. We don't have to say that there is any mind-independent reality. Some sort of idealist or solipsist. Cool. This, so mind-independent reality that causes those observations. This two-step inferential chain from observation to external world to knowledge creates unnecessary philosophical problems while systematically excluding vast domains of empirical data as merely subjective. Unreal says, doesn't just about every empiricist deal with that question? I think yes. Successfully or otherwise can't be argued. Yeah, this is the problem. You need, like, all of them know this. There's nothing, like, clever about this, but it's like, okay, but see, it looks like this is an idealistic position when they say they're an empiricist, because they're saying, how do we deal with idealism? And you know what? That's a legit question. I'll grant Brandon that, like, okay, how do empiricists deal with idealism? Oh, that's why it's not peer reviewed? It didn't take long. But I mean, you'll notice also there are no references here. It just is a bald statement about all contemporary empiricism. And as chat has pointed out, everyone says stuff about this because you have to. But they say, okay, it's never been adequately justified. And you know what? For the first paragraph, I'll let that go. Maybe we're going to get some references, some flesh on this theory. You know, maybe. Might just happen. All right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this whole thing proper like anyway. Let me, oopsie. Wrong button. Solipsism breaks peer review. What did I do? Ah, shoot. I missed my link. Dang it. Sorry, one sec. I want to just, like, if we're going to review this, I'm going to do it proper, like. Ah, shit. I lost the link to this one paper that I picked up. Here it is. Nope, this is not. This is just, Dagnabbit. Yeah, here we go. This is it. Sorry, I wanted to actually do this. So if anyone really wants to look at this. Socknos, I don't know what to call this thing I'm talking about, and I'm going to think about it for a long while, but I really need to work on my philosophy. I've been busy with trying to see the politics of today. That's hard enough, yes. Dealing with the Hispanic community and trying to change the way of thinking that is harmful to the rest of the community. Yeah, I mean, again, there's a lot of shit going on, like, just today. You know, what's really funny is, you know, Trump's trying to distract the press by, you know, shitting his pants, which I find a really good strategy if you're a 3-year-old. Okay. Anyway, experiential empiricism proposes a radical simplification. Observations are sufficient. So, are we talking about, what was it? What's the old thing from Berkeley? Perception is essence. So, observations are sufficient. We're talking about observations. This is just you know, this is okay. Whatever you see, that's what's real. Rather than treating experiences as representations of something else, we can work directly with experiential patterns and their limitations as the foundations of all empirical inquiry. This shift eliminates metaphysical overhead while preserving everything valuable about the scientific method. So, is evil fun? It can be, yes. What's up, Green Rap? So, you can see right here, we've gone from empiricism to, you know, observations are sufficient, which is like the hallmark of, like, okay, we're just going to do observation. It's just an idealism about observations. This guy has gone from empiricism to idealism in a paragraph and has not realized it. Or a paragraph and, like, in 3 sentences. The key insight is that consciousness is not a mysterious addition to an otherwise unconscious universe, but the foundational condition that makes empirical knowledge possible and meaningful. What the fuck is consciousness and how does it work here? I don't know. Without conscious experience to register significance, patterns become mere arrangements, information processing occurs without import, and nothing actually matters regardless of complexity. Okay, so I guess consciousness is direct consciousness of reality. So we have a direct access to reality. Our impressions are veridical. I mean, has this guy anything philosophical traditions, its dissolution of classical problems, and its practical implications for scientific methodology and ethics. The central claim is that experiential empiricism represents not a new theory competing in the marketplace of ideas. Well, what the fuck else is it, my friend? But what happens when empiricism is pursued with sufficient rigor to question its own assumptions? I mean, it's interesting. You notice not a single reference in this introductory paragraph. Okay, maybe they're all coming later. Who knows? So EE rests on two bedrock certainties that no coherent inquiry can avoid. Axiom 1. Logic works. Logic exhibits self-proving necessity when engaged. Okay, what counts as self-proving? What counts as necessity? Let me know. You cannot coherently doubt logical relationships while using reasoning to perform the doubt. Okay, that also has been a long-standing claim, but it's very, very weak. There's very few logical relationships that this holds for. You can make the claim that adjunction, so you put like this and this, you can't actually put two things together. Like you can't like conjunct things, use like an and without also previously understanding what and is. This holds for universal instantiation. You can't talk about individuals as members of some kind of general class of things without already being able to understand what it is for something to be an individual, or else you can't talk about it. What do we got here, Brian? So well, being a little evil, I'm just going to go, because I knew I was going to beat up on this poor dude. I don't like to feel good. Well, then you cannot coherently doubt logical relationships, but this also means that logic does not claim that its logic is complete or infallible. Well, how does it, if it's undoubtable, then why is it fallible? Because that would make it doubtable if it was fallible. Like if it was false, I could doubt it. Only that it provides an inescapable foundation for systematic inquiry. Any attempt to argue against logic must employ logical relationships, making the position self-refuting. Yes, in the very limited case of a few logical relationships. All the other ones, it gets complicated. Like, this is just, like, people write papers on which ones cannot be doubted, and everything else, like, you can't prove it for. There's just a few of them. I named two. There might be another two or three, but, like, that's it. That's it. But, again, no references here. Nothing has been said. And, like, the most recent discussion of this topic is from Saul Kripke, Romina Padro, his old assistant. She's not old. I say old because Kripke's dead. And so his former assistant, she wrote something called The Adoption Problem, about the adoption problem in her dissertation. There was a little bit of a boom on this topic in the last few years before he died. And so, I think it's lost a little steam now that Kripke's dead. But like these were, I looked at some of this because I knew some of the people in New York that were talking about it. And so it's like, yeah, I know about the current talk about this. This references nobody and knows nothing of the current discussion. Axiom 2. Experience creates all meaning. Without conscious experience to register significance, nothing matters. Okay, again, we make the significance fine. Mathematical patterns become mere arrangements, beauty becomes configuration, knowledge becomes information processing without import. Okay, so this isn't just mattering at all. This is like information processing. But processing still matters. Like, what does this even mean? Because mere arrangements can still matter. It needs to be human rationality. That's fine if that's the claim, but this doesn't mean fucking shit at this point. The fuck does that sentence even mean? All meaning, value, purpose, and significance require conscious experience as their necessary foundation. Okay, whatever, but again, conscious experience has not been explained. It's just saying that's what does it. Fine as a description, but all these other claims about the moment that anything matters when conscious experience came in, that's an argument. I need an argument for that. Why should consciousness be so significant? You're just describing what consciousness does, but okay. All right, so at least Brandon's a little bit better. This is not a philosophical position, but recognition of what makes anything meaningful at all. Is it? Is it now? Is it now? Really? Why is it not a philosophical position? Of all things out here, this is definitely a philosophical position. Is anyone going to get the lag, or is it your Wi-Fi? Oh, I don't know. Is it lag? Yeah, I'm dropping frames again. Yeah. Dag nabbit. Okay, I think it's back. Okay, it looks like a drop down for a minute, but it's a little bit back now. Okay, sure. Okay, yeah, so I was just saying, look, Brandon goes, this is not a philosophical position, but a recognition of what makes anything meaningful at all. Of all things, this is a philosophical position. A universe of philosophical zombies processing information perfectly but feeling nothing would be a world where nothing actually mattered, regardless of complexity. But again, this is definitely a philosophical position. Like, of all things, it's a philosophical position. What else would it be? This is a claim about what matters in the world. Information without experience is like a book without a reader. But is it a book without a writer? Like, it still might matter. Just because the book, it doesn't need to be read. Your Twitch keeps crashing altogether. Oh, maybe it's on their side. That's annoying. Okay. I'm sorry about the connection issues, but if Twitch is just being Twitch, what can we do? Yeah, okay. So maybe refresh. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Okay. Again, so these are just like sort of incoherent claims about what counts as a philosophical position in this thing. Again, not a single reference is to be, you're using data, not Wi-Fi. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's on Twitch's side, it won't make any difference because then it's just the feed that's coming to you. Okay, so not a single reference has yet been created here. Alright, 2.2, the shift from representation to direct access. Traditional empiricism assumes a representational model. Our experiences somehow represent features of an external world. Ugh. Okay, I'm sorry about this. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, okay. Thank you for the raid, Luminance Bloom. If anyone doesn't know our buddy Luminance, he is going over classic texts in philosophy. He was doing, last semester, he was doing the Critique of Pure Reason. This semester, you start off with Aristotle's categories. If you want some metaphysics, you want some talk about like what is in the world, go hang out with Luminance. He's streaming on Sundays at 4 o'clock Eastern. So yeah. So welcome in Luminance and friends. Latvian Jesus, what's going on? I think we had some other people, but I was a little, hey, Ra, what's up, Ra? Guy Pika, yeah, you have been here, though. Peach T's been here. Yeah. So I'm sorry about, like, this has happened once or twice where I've been dropping off for a second the last few streams. I don't know what the deal is. This is my 666th philosophy roulette. So there's been this guy. I don't know if you know, but there's this. If anyone doesn't know me, I'm Noah, Noger, Nogreo, whatever you want to call me. Just don't be a jerk. There's this guy on Phil People who's complaining that no one reads his work. And you want to know why? It's absolutely terrible. Because I'm reading it now on stream. I glanced at it a few days ago. It is garbage. And so it's like, I was going to be like, I'm going to be a little evil. I'm going to go read somebody and be like, look, it's not good. You think other streamers have been having problems too? Yeah, Twitch is just, it's jank. It's jank as jank. So it's like, yeah. So we're just reading this wannabe philosopher, and he's like complaining on the Phil Papers website, the Phil People side, that no one reads my work. Well, let me tell you, my friend, your work is bad. And that's why no one's reading it. So it's like, yeah. But like, we're going over it. So what this is, and you'll appreciate this, Luminance, as, you know, a professional. Like, Luminance has a PhD in philosophy. This guy is doing something he's calling experiential empiricism. And basically, he's outlined an idealistic position. So it's not empirical at all. But he thinks it is. And he doesn't really understand the history of the ideas. He has not referenced a single person yet. And he's, he's just, he thinks his idealism is empiricism. And that's really what's going on here. He does not understand the difference. K-Pars says, what's up, K-Pars? I just saw a video talking about the scientist archetype of someone who ignores all the standard ways of representing variables in their theory and has like 80-page dense mathematical treatise that nobody reads because it would take like 9 months and complains that they solve so many problems, but no one cites their work. Yeah, it's, you love hate to see it. You know, I have like a little bit of sympathy as an independent researcher without any advanced degrees. I understand I was writing some shitty ass metaphysics 15 years ago. It was bad. Maybe not. Maybe it wasn't that bad. But you know, it's like the idea that the academy has to put up with your shitty ass work. It's like, no, it doesn't actually. Yeah. Vibe physics go burr. Yeah. It's like, no, we don't. And there is a thing about peer review. So for those who don't know, philosophy generally works on, it's called double-blind peer review. So you send stuff in and the editors and the reviewers don't know who you are. So it's meant to give you a fair shake because they don't want to be like biased against, you know, someone that doesn't have like what, you know, might be considered like a typical, like if you're like have a Western European male name, that's like what a philosopher you might think of as. But if you're not a Western white European guy, that doesn't mean your philosophy is inherently bad. Far from it. So there's called double blind review. So you can send stuff in and it's like, all right, so if you actually can get past peer review, that means your philosophy stood on its own merits. This guy's like, well, no one likes my stuff and it's not my fault. They don't like me. It's or something to that effect. It's like, no, your stuff is terrible, my friend. Good. Hey, what's up, DeMarshall? Latvian, what's up? Sometimes the papers we read make me go, damn, I really could get a degree by shitting on my keyboard and seeing if it's coherent enough. Yeah. And that's the issue, is that once you start understanding something, you're like, oh, I could write some papers and I could get them published. Now, it may not be in the fanciest journals. It may not be on the best topics. It may just be something like, you know, you do a project in there. You could get it published. Yes, you could. But these people think they're solving the world and they think, oh, no, I'm brilliant and no one's listening to me. No, my friend, you haven't said anything worth anyone listening to yet. That's what this is. Okay. So yeah, so again, this person has no idea what empiricism is, and they think they're doing it. Sock says, I think I have a good idea what I can call my philosophy on this specific topic on episode 2, venerationism. Cool, there you go. But see, that's the whole point. You know, you have an idea what you're talking about. You can focus in on that and be like, this is why my philosophy is different from other people, and you can talk about how your stuff is different from the other people. This person's just making claims. That's all it is. Love me some head-up-ass academics, Latvian says. Yeah, I don't even know who this guy is. I don't think he's a wannabe academic, I think. I mean, I wish I could get paid for my philosophy, but I'm not. So there's nothing against being an independent researcher. It's just, you know, you gotta at least understand what's going on in the discussion. Guy G. Pikey says, is philosophy publishing in the same scientific journals where there are different levels of respectability for the journals? Yes, very much so. And because philosophy doesn't have material goods as its results, like, you know, you publish engineering stuff, you actually have to build, like, you know, bridges and shit and buildings in engineering. And in physics, other people can go replicate your experiments. In philosophy, there is nothing like that. It's just ideas. And so all you have is your reputation on the quality of your ideas and what people think of it. So that makes it actually extremely competitive to get into the top journals. There's too many papers being written and not enough space and not enough reviewers. So it's real hard to get into the top journals. You have to basically get lucky. A lot of good papers end up in random places and people don't read them, but like, there's only so much space and the top journals are slammed. So it's like, they're going to miss some good papers, but that's just how it falls. Okay. So we're in page 3 of like this 10-page paper, basically, because the first page was just an outline. The shift from representation to direct access. So this person thinks that consciousness has some sort of direct empirical access. How do we have consciousness have direct empirical access of the world? I don't know, but they think the representations are somehow direct. Tell me how this isn't an idealism, where it's just, what you see, its appearance is all that it is. I keep going back to the Barclay. The reputation must be very important. It's unfortunately a real pain in the ass, Guy Pikey. Okay, traditional empiricism assumes a representational model. Our experiences somehow represent features of an external world we can never directly access. Okay, fine. Like, yeah, we learn stuff and then we have to do science. That's empiricism. We do science, we figure shit out. This creates the persistent puzzle of how we can know whether our representations correspond to a reality. We do experiments, dickhead. That's how we find things out. So experiential empiricism dissolves this problem by rejecting the representational model entirely. Okay, what's your alternative? Instead of treating experiences as signs pointing to something else, we work directly with experiential patterns and their limitations. The patterns we encounter and experience are not representations of reality, but the empirical data from which all legitimate knowledge is constructed. So I'm not sure what this is, but I'm thinking qualia. So this person's thinking, okay, we've got impressions given by our senses, that's qualia, and that's what we're using. That's all that exists. Again, idealism. Sinnlichkeit, yeah. Consider pain. Under traditional empiricism, pain is treated as a subjective representation of objective tissue damage, but this creates unnecessary complications. How does objective damage become subjective experience? Why should subjective reports be less epistemically valuable than third-person observations of tissue state? I mean, what is the epistemic value here? What does this even mean? Less epistemically valuable. You could see someone's image, or you can, someone's injury, or you can listen to them scream in pain, or you can feel the pain. What is the epistemic value there? I don't even know what this means. Under EE, pain is simply empirical data. So I guess the pain itself is empirical data, your experience of it, with the same epistemic status as any other observation. Okay, so you experience the pain. Okay. But we knew that. It exhibits patterns responding to interventions in predictable ways and constrains what theories can successfully account for the full range of empirical phenomenon. So what are we saying? The pain somehow represents features of the external world, like he was saying, is rejected up here. So the pain constrains what theories can successfully account for the range of phenomena. So this is exactly what this was up here that empiricism is supposed to, this version of empiricism is supposed to reject. Yeah, then it would be, I guess, a secondhand report PhD. Sensuality, sense perception. Yeah. Okay, K-parse. Sure. I mean, but again, this is meant to be not an idealism. You're just going to get your sense perception in, some sort of qualia, but then what is the constraints, what theories can successfully account for the full range of empirical phenomena, but isn't that exactly what the empiricism is doing? There is no mysterious gap between objective and subjective data because all data is encountered within experience. Then how do you, if all things are experienced, you have to be able to make a distinction between what is the thing you're trying to explain and the explanation, the explanans and the explanandum, as it is that gets used in philosophy of science. What is the thing to be explained and then the explanation of it? But that's the whole fucking point. They're different experiences, sure, but the question is explanation. And then your experiences represents features of an external world we can't access. Well, yeah, you experience something and then you explain it with a theory of the world. But okay, you're calling everything an experience, but it doesn't really matter. It's just this is just a semantic difference. Everything's an experience, sure, but you still have something that phenomenon you're trying to explain with the explanation of the thing in the world or whatever that other experience is. You're not getting away with it by changing the name there. Again, not a single reference to be found yet of any other theory and why this theory is actually any different from anyone else. 3, or 1.43, historical context and intellectual precedents. 1.413.1, the trajectory of classical empiricism. EE completes a trajectory that began with classical empiricism but was never fully developed. Classical empiricism, Locke and Hume, knowledge comes from experience, but experience somehow represents an external world we can never directly access. This creates skeptical problems about reliability of our knowledge of the external world. Cool. Again, no references, but like, yeah, sure, gloss. Socrates, I think words like dogmatism, purism, reductionism, sentimentalism undermine veneration and the importance of praise, or why a person should be authentic towards an ideological figure, political or religious figure within their positions. This is what I would call this ideology. Okay. What's up, Adam? How you doing? I'm back. Yeah, I know. Sorry about that. I think both Twitch and my internet have been funky in the last 2 weeks. So what are we going to do? Okay, so this is the classical empiricism, and that's a gloss on it, but alright, we'll accept it for now. Kantian idealism. We can never know things in themselves, only phenomena as they appear to us through our cognitive structure. Kant solved the skeptical problem by making the external world partially mind-dependent, but retained the problematic distinction between appearance and reality. Oh yeah. Phenomenology, Husserl, study experience as it is given, bracketing assumptions about what lies behind it. This was a brilliant methodological insight that pointed experiential empiricism, but was never developed into a complete empirical framework. So this guy likes Husserlian phenomenology, man after my own heart. I also like it, but it's not really, it's true, it's not coherent. Experiential empiricism, yeah, I don't think Husserl got it all worked out. He got some things worked out. Experiential empiricism independently develops and completes phenomenology's core insight by recognizing that bracketing is not just a specialized philosophical critique, but the foundation of all legitimate empirical method. Question: what does bracketing mean? Brandon, what does bracketing mean? Because Husserl, this is one of the problems with Husserl, is that it's not entirely clear what bracketing is. He changed a bunch of stuff over his lifetime. So what is bracketing? Was Husserl trying to build a system? Kind of, Peach Tea. I think he things changed over time. Apar says, I read it in Husserl. Yeah. Where in Husserl, my friend Brandon? Where in Husserl? Because it doesn't mean the same thing all the time. Did I not read the paragraph above? Oh, yeah. It was right up here that he said that he read it in Husserl. Brilliant insight. Right up here. But, again, what the fuck is this? I mean, did you not read my paragraph above? Yeah, where in Husserl? Tell me. Show me. Show me what you mean by bracketing. Because at this point, this is the foundation of all legitimate empirical method. Then what is it? What phenomenology got right and wrong? Space crime, what is it's not coherent is what it is. Welcome in, Space Crime. Lovely to see you. Yeah, so this is my 666th philosophy roulette, where I read philosophy papers on stream and try to explain them. And this guy's been bitching that no one takes him seriously. And we're finding out why. So yeah, so there's a little bit of evilness for my 666th roulette. So yeah, that's the problem, is it's not coherent. And so yeah, but if anyone doesn't know, Space Crime is also a writer. Let's give Space Crime a shout out. Never had the opportunity to do this, but I shall. It's all the bracketing he does, yeah. And so Space Crime actually has chill streams, playing some New York Times games and fun stuff like that. Sitting around chatting. I think it was doing some crafting stuff the other day. But yeah, it was cool. So if you don't know Space Crime, streamer, have fun. Yeah. So yeah. But Space Crime is also in the literary world. Not philosophy, but writing other stuffs. So it can tell. You still got to be consistent. You still got to be coherent. Followed, yeah. Well, nice. Yeah. Dirac used bracketing for equations. Yes, yes, yes. Space is cooler than us. Yes, that's true too. Okay. So what phenomenology you got right and wrong? Husserl's phenomenology made a crucial methodological discovery. We should work from experience as given rather than assuming external realities we can never access. I mean, yeah, Husserl's kicked off the phenomenology. That's cool. That's fine. Yeah. Bracketing is when you put up shelves. That's true too. That's right. Yeah, you're all in my chat, which says more about you than me. I don't know why anyone's here usually, but that's fine. The phenomenological reduction, bracketing the natural attitudes, assumptions about the external world, pointed to a more rigorous empirical approach. Okay, I'm not saying you can't like bracket your assumptions about the world, but the question is, what are you actually doing when you are like doing this? And this is the problem. It's real hard to get down to what counts as like it doesn't even say. You're just using you're just reusing the word in your definition. You're bracketing the natural attitudes assumption about the external world. So you have to question your attitude about the external world. Again, not spelled out very well. Yeah, Husserl, that famous empiricist, exactly, Unreal Brian. Like I said, this person feels like a idealist and doesn't know what the difference between idealism and empiricism is. And that's the problem here. So I mean, you can document your experience. It doesn't mean that documenting those experiences means somehow empirical evidence. Yeah, but the problem is that is one of the better definitions, just documenting like experience, but how and why. And the definition changed over time for Husserl, and so even that, you could say that, but this author didn't say that. Point this way. This author didn't say that. So it's like, come on. Okay. However, phenomenology remained incomplete in several ways. First, Husserl treated bracketing as a specialized philosophical method rather than recognizing it as the foundation for all empirical inquiry. What the fuck is it? Well, look, is it empirical inquiry or is it some sort of special thing? Second, he did not grasp that conscious experience creates all meaning, making this approach not just methodologically sound, but ontologically foundational. So it's just your mind is creating all the meaning here. So how is this empirical? K-Part says, well, actually, I experienced the sun rising. Checkmate. Yes, checkmate. Adam says, is this paper going over the history of phenomenology and empiricism, old and new? No. So what this paper is this person thinks they've solved all the problems in philosophy and has been complaining online about everyone ignoring them. So I was like, all right, let me go read it. And I skimmed this the other day, and I was just like, yeah, I know exactly why you're getting ignored. So I was going to go over it. You're on a 5-stream streak. Thank you, Aris. This sounds like Idealism 101. This is exactly what it is. And the funny part is about it, it's like idealism isn't a bad theory. That's why people are idealists. Like, there's lots of idealists out there. You may not recognize all of them as idealists, but like, it's a legit theory. If this person was just like, oh, you're an idealist, you're not an empiricist, now go read the idealist stuff and you might like it, but this person wants to be an empiricist so bad. They don't like the idea that they're gonna be Kantian. They don't like the idea that maybe they're in like the wrong tradition. They like the idea of them being with science. And this is one of the, Aris was like slamming analytic philosophy the other day and also continental. But this is one of the bad problems with contemporary society is that they were like, oh yeah, we're going to be scientific and rigorous like analytic philosophy. And this is one of the things that they don't understand is that they want to be that way, but they don't understand the theory. You prefer experiential empiricism? There you go. Ideally, though, one would be an empiricist, if you can. It can be your angel or your devil. Yeah, kind of. Oh, you got the little squeezies going on there, Aris. Nice. DeMarshall says, that's someone who needs validation. Philosophy is not the best way. Yeah, exactly, DeMarshall. Yeah, they really need validation. It's like, it's not going to work. It's like, I know you're the specialist boy and you probably were told you were really smart when you were younger. And now you're like, why am I not being told how smart and good boy I am? It's like, yeah, well, you're not that smart and you're not that good. Latvin says, the story of idealists who said after getting pinched, that is not pain, that's a sensation of the idea of pain. Yeah. You can half follow me? Well, hey, that's pretty good. If I can half make sense, that's usually better than I normally do. But what's up, walking stick? The problem is, look, they're saying I'm an empiricist, but then they're relying on this Husserlian phenomenology, which is not empiricist. It's just not. Uh, Sock says, if this other one uses and somehow embolden a capitalist, the type of ideology your resume experience is somehow empirical evidence and then supports the job market and all this garbage. I don't think someone's going to walk either if he's trying to grift off philosophy. Emboldened, yeah. I don't know what this... I think this guy is, as DeMarshall said, looking for validation. I don't know if it's like grift or what, but like this person wants to be like the smartest specialist little boy again when they were when they were younger or something or other. And dude, the world's rough out there and no one gives a shit. Which philosophy will get me a date with Morticia Adams? I think she actually turned out to be gay in the end, so no philosophy, Aris, unless you turn into a gay woman. So she was married, I recall, it only came out a few years ago. She was married to a guy, they divorced, she was going to the gym and like she fell in love with her trainer. No, her trainer broke up with her boyfriend. Her trainer, she had a big house because she was an actor, and her trainer moved in because like she had an extra room, and then they were just like, no, we're done. Like, this is perfect. So, sorry, you're not getting a date with Morticia. Her and her trainer like fell in love. I think that only came out recently because, back in the day, it was you couldn't be gay in Hollywood as easily. Or you couldn't come out. So, sorry, Aris, but whatever. I know. There's plenty of goth chicks on Twitch. You should go find one. I send you to them all the time. Okay. However, phenomenology remained incomplete in several ways. First, Husserl treated bracketing as a specialized philosophical method rather than recognizing it as the foundation for all empirical inquiry. Yeah, if anyone, I've got a bunch of people in chat. If you've got questions, feel free to ask me questions about this, it's fine. I'll try to answer them. I don't know if I can, but I'll try. Second, he did not grasp that conscious experience creates all meaning. Again, this is so idealistic. Conscious experience creates all meaning. Okay. It's not out in the world. It's, something else. Funk Thor, yeah, it's a paper I got published recently, last summer. Making this approach not just methodologically sound, but ontologically foundational. Again, what is methodologically sound here? Third, phenomenology developed elaborate descriptive methods, but never connected these insights to the formal apparatus of scientific prediction and explanation. Well, granted, you haven't done that yet either, Mr. Sergent. I don't know how you're going to do that, but okay. So EE completes phenomenology by extending its core methodological insight into a comprehensive framework for empirical inquiry that preserves the mathematical and predictive structure of science while eliminating unnecessary metaphysical assumptions. We have not talked about science before, except in these last few sentences, so I have no idea what Brandon even thinks science is. Okay. So we've got a little chart here, diagram thing. Conceptual comparisons. Materialist empiricism versus experiential empiricism. Ontological foundation, materialism, normal empiricism, materialist empiricism. There's external matter. And then there's, for experiential empiricism, you've got experiential patterns. So I guess you've got series of impressions or whatever that would be. Data, treatment is sense data represents matter, and then sense data as directly given because that's your experience, so that's fine. Treatment of the hard problem, gap between matter and mind. Apparently there is no conscious dissolved, there's no bridge needed. So I guess they're just in the Heideggerian style because it's Husserlian. K. Parr says, whenever someone says they complete discipline or solve a fundamental problem, I laugh. We've completed geometry, Euclid. Exactly, K. Pars. It's again, they say they've solved consciousness because there is no mind-body problem, but they didn't tell us what consciousness was then either. They just said we just have direct access to the world. So it's a idealism or it's a phenomenalism where you just get the phenomena. That's it. So there is no theory of consciousness, but then there's also no hard problem because you just aren't explaining anything whatsoever. Maybe Whitehead? Yeah, maybe. Could be. I don't know where this is coming from. It's all made up. Status of quantum interpretation. Ontological, there's a collapse. Then I don't even know what this means. Epistemic regularities only under EE. Subjective data is secondary, merely subjective. And again, first class empirical input. Yeah, so your quality or whatever this patterns of stuff in the world are, that's first class. Methodological change, none required, none required. So I don't even know what this last line is about. Fanged noumena, you say. Everything's just experience, yeah. You know, maybe that's true, Funk Thor. I didn't think about that. This is just a process philosophy, and this person, I don't know enough about Whitehead, but maybe this is a process philosophy, and it's just like everything's a process. Philosophers making sounds, e and ooh, yeah, exactly. Experiential, empiricism and object-oriented ontology, but we just like the e's and the oohs. Peach T says that last line seems like we still do science the way science does science. Oh, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, because again, people really want to be empiricists because they feel like they're in the scientific tradition, even though they don't even know what they're talking about. Aha, we're going to find the hidden truth about materialism's success. Materialism was not successful because it accurately described reality's fundamental nature. It would succeed because it accidentally approximated this theory, this guy's theory here, better than other frameworks available during the scientific revolution. Consider what materialist science actually does. Observe patterns, form theories that predict future patterns, test predictions against more observed patterns. At every step, scientists work with experiential data while telling themselves a story about external matter. Do the scientists work with experiential data, or do we have experiments that get like results that we record the results of? I don't know. You tell me. The real insights came from the empirical method itself, the systematic study of experiential patterns and limitations. Again, what is the empirical method here that is just experiential patterns and limitations? We have not defined an empirical method. It's just, bald claim here. The materialist interpretation was metaphysical baggage that happened to be less harmful than assuming divine intervention explained everything. I mean, I guess, but there's no problem with that. However, this success came at an enormous cost. What in the glitchy? Did I glitch? I look like I'm okay. This success came at an enormous cost by treating conscious experience as merely subjective and dismissing feelings as meaningless epiphenomena. What is this feelings all of a sudden? Materialism enabled systematic callousness towards conscious beings. The entire concept of evil mad science, experimenting on conscious beings while dismissing their suffering as irrelevant, is only possible when you reject conscious experiences having real empirical significance. So, okay, now our conscious experience is affecting reality in some way, and this has something to do with science because it's not Funk Thor. So people were complaining that this guy's work looks a little AI. It may be a little bit AI. It's not. We've read straight up AI before, and it's terrible. This, at least, this person put some effort into getting their ideas out a little bit. So even if this is AI, I'm not going to criticize it for being AI in this case. That's not the source of the problems here. The sources of the problems here is that this makes no fucking sense. It's not that it was written by AI. I didn't even define real mad science. Come on, man. I know. They at least make it fun. And this is one of the problems here is, I have this, these are the requirements and trolls. Low effort comments are subject to removal and ban. This includes but not limited to profane or vulgar statements made for their own sake and tedious trolling. This is tedious. They don't know what they're doing and they're not even making it interesting. And this is why this is getting ignored, because this person has no fucking clue what's interesting or relevant in philosophy. And I'm on the interesting side. Just make it interesting. I don't even care if you're wrong. I was talking to Stock now earlier. I'm not on the capital T truth side of philosophy. I don't even give a fuck most of the time. If you're saying something interestingly wrong, I'll take that any fucking day over someone who's trivially true. Ugh. If conscious experience had been treated as foundational empirical data from the beginning, practices like unethical animal experimentation and weapons designed specifically to cause suffering would have been recognized as fundamentally unscientific and deliberately ignoring your most important data source. We would have solved all the world's problems if we had only figured this out earlier. What's up, Birdbanes? Welcome in. Hard agree, yeah. Doger says, claim, ignore obvious issues, claim, contrast with good name, drop, claim, solution. He has the confidence of an AI. Yep. And I know what happens in the future, and it just gets worse. That's what happens. How you doing, Dojo? So the dissolution of classical problems. The hard problem of consciousness. So now we're starting with the I've solved everything. Adam says there's schools now in Japan where elementary students work with AI only for one whole school day. And I don't hate all the AI. It's, it is very helpful on some things. So it's like, go do the fucking AI sometimes, learn what's happening, and be prepared for the future when we have more of this shit. Cool. If you're going to try to write research philosophy, it's currently not good enough. Maybe in the future it will be one day, but it's currently not good enough yet. Now, if you need something to be explained to you that is maybe not cutting edge philosophy, but like, in the literature, the AI quite often gets close. I've seen like close things. Cutting edge stuff, no, because it won't be able to understand all the subtleties going on. But like big theories over the last, from 100 years ago, 50 years ago, it doesn't do the worst job. It will help you. And that's what you're looking for, is a summary of something that you need a little bit of assistance with. Cool. ChatGPT told me Deleuze is a dialectician. Yeah, and this is the problem. This is like the more contemporary stuff, the stuff that's a little bit more subtle. It's not good. It's not good yet. It's not good enough. Yeah. Weekend AI school, yeah. Okay, so here's the hard problem. The hard problem asks, how does subjective experience arise from objective matter? This problem exists only if you assume matter is more fundamental than experience. Under EE, consciousness is not mysterious, but the given foundation from which everything is constructed. So consciousness is fundamental. Great. What is it? What is it, my friend? You haven't explained anything then. You just said you don't have to do this other thing. Is it mapping not on a bridge? Yeah. Okay, rather than explaining how consciousness emerges from unconscious matter, EE recognizes consciousness as the condition that makes empirical inquiry possible. The question becomes not how does matter produce consciousness, but what patterns and limitations do we encounter within consciousness experience, and how do we systematically study these patterns? Dude, why don't you just say God makes you understand the world at this point? It's just like, okay, God, mind, pick one. Like, you don't have any explanation, so you're just say God again. That would be easier on us. This new framework become direct mappings of experiential patterns rather than mysterious bridges between fundamentally different kinds of substance. There is no explanatory gap because there are not two different realms. Really? How the fuck does that make sense? Energy, what's up? Laughing is the invisible hand of the mind, yeah. Birdbane's always looking for the easy answer when none presents itself, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, did I F again? Fuck. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what the hell's going on with this. My apologies. But yeah. I don't like the tech bros. They're like terrible at the moment. They're basically throwing in with the authoritarians and the tyrannical elements in society, and it's not good. So it's like, yeah. But that's not the AI's fault in some sense. This is like, you can complain about the AI, but the AI is not our current political situation. Like, it's not AI's fault that we're in the current political situation we are in. That's not to say AI is without moral positions. Like, the greatest trick Google ever pulled was to say that tech was neutral. It's not. But like, yeah. Last you said with neural correlates? Okay. Yeah, neural correlates are not the world. And so the idea that like this is what the world is insane. It's a direct mapping of experiential patterns. Oopsie. Wrong thing. But it's like neural correlates of consciousness become direct mappings of experiential patterns, and like so that between fundamentally different kinds of substance. Oh no, experiential patterns rather than mysterious bridges. So there is no explanatory gap because they're not two different realms requiring connection. So somehow our neurons are the world because it's just one thing. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, the fight is over AI regulation right now, and the big money is winning over more sound rules. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, come on. It looks like I'm okay. Sorry, Bird Brains. Yeah, I dropped a few frames. Functor says, dude, literally argue with dead materialist mechanic philosophy of 19th century after 20th century. Nobody sees a world made of tiny particles that move through empty space. I mean, this is the problem. There are no references here. None. No references at all. So the idea that, like, this is actually talking about anything that's relevant is only in this guy's head. That's the problem. The subject-object problem, 5.2. Traditional epistemology struggled with how the mind relates to external reality. If the mind is in here and the reality is out there, how can knowledge bridge this gap? EE dissolves this problem by recognizing that objects are stable limitation patterns within experiential reality rather than external entities that somehow cause experience. Again, they're idealists. It's just what the mind creates. It's not anything in the world. It's just idealistic mind stuff. The resistance you feel when pushing against a wall is not a representation of an external wall, but a directly encountered limitation pattern that constrains your experiential possibilities. Yeah, that wall don't exist. It's just in your fucking head. It's a pattern. K-Part says, Marx actually had an interesting part in chapter 1 of Capital where he talks about how markets need to equate in quantity, but the use value of goods are to do with their quantities that satisfies human needs. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the issue is that in a political theory and like social theory, you can start to define things phenomenologically because they represent different things under like different economies and political theories. And that's true. Like if you have a Marxian phenomenology, you view the world differently than you do under like a non-Marxian or capitalistic sort of thing. Yeah. But like if you're doing this just empiricism, no, you're an idealist. It's like this is not a political theory. You're talking about objects in the world. Energy says, I'm skeptical of AI regulation, generally personally, because I believe markets self-correcting mechanisms naturally select for innovative technologies. Yeah, the problem is the markets suck. That's why we have anti-monopoly laws. I mean, I agree with you. I don't think the regulation's gonna be very effective nowadays, but I have less faith in the markets than you do. Because we've had to have lots of laws to fix up the market because people are bad actors. PHT says, I've been wanting to learn more about dialectical materialism versus idealism lately. Well, we've got some people in chat that know way more about that than I do. I mean, you could probably go ask Prof, actually. I didn't shout him out. Prof. He's our buddy. He's actually the leader of my stream team. He would know way more about talking about this. If you don't know our buddy Prof, he streams a lot of games, but he talks philosophy while streaming games. Very impressive stuff. He's recently partnered, so you can see he's got the cool 4-character name too. But like, yeah, he could definitely point you in the right direction about these sorts of things better than I can. Because I don't know enough about dialectical materialism to really give instruction. But like, yeah, he's our buddy and head of I'm on Profco. If you can't see, I'm on a stream team now. And thank you, Prof. But yeah, so it's like this is how it goes. Sakno is pro-market regulation. And like that's the whole point, is that different political ideologies will look at things differently, and so we'll have different positions on regulations and different positions on what the market can and can't do for us. Wardringer, hello, first time in chat. Matt Jim Russell, welcome in. Wardringer, how you doing? We're reading some bad philosophy today because it's my 666th thing I'm reading on this channel, and I'm basically saying why it's bad. So I'm just going to be a little bit mean today. So welcome in, and welcome in from Jim Russell's. Energy says, even though I got here late, from what I'm reading so far, this sounds like a pre-Kantian, pre-critical idealism. Yeah, it's terrible because this person thinks they're doing empiricism, which is fucking sane. They don't understand any of these theories. They're on the wrong side of the divide according to what they say, and then they're just getting shit wrong and then just making bald claims. Excellent, have fun. Exactly. So that's what I figured I'd do, because this person was also bitching online on Phil People, which is sort of like LinkedIn for philosophers, and he was saying, no one takes me seriously. Well, my friend, there's a reason no one takes you serious, because you are not a serious person. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So how do we, reality's out there and we're in here. How do we know these things? Yeah, so when you lean against the wall, it's not a representation of an external wall, but a directly encountered limitation pattern, which we're going to call wall, that constrains your experiential possibilities. Yeah, Adam says stable limitation pattern. So how physics claims elementary particles like electron hold mass and charge, he thinks we have direct access to this propositional content. Sounds like a scientific realist. Yeah, I mean, but he's saying, and I remember, this is empiricism without realism. It's like he doesn't understand what he's talking about. Did I read Everything Must Go, Metaphysics Naturalized? I did not. Yeah. Okay, objectivity under this framework means intersubjective reproducibility of experiential patterns rather than corresponds to a mind-independent reality. Something is objective to the extent that different observers encounter similar limitation patterns under similar conditions. Again, this is how the world impresses us. No, not the world. It's just the impressions we get that happen regularly. Yeah. Okay, K-Pars is going on to the historical materialism. Yeah, I've heard about the book a few times, but on the list of things I have to do, it's not very high. Okay, quantum measurement paradoxes. So we're solving quantum physics now here. Wave particle duality and observer effects seem bizarre under materialism because we expect particles to be little billiard balls flying through empty space. Do we? I didn't think any physicist thought that anymore. No one thinks this. When did we think this? Hundreds of years ago. Not anymore. When these expectations are violated, we invent increasingly exotic interpretations. Many world, pilot wave, spontaneous collapse. Under EE, some of this weirdness dissolves when you stop assuming there is an outside reality that measurements reveal. Quantum formalism describes patterns of limitations and possibility within experiential reality. The mathematics works perfectly for prediction and control without requiring commitment to any particular story about what exists independent of measurement. Okay, so everything just works perfectly because this guy says so. Wonderful. This does not solve all interpretive questions. Oh, okay, he's not making all things solve. He ain't solving everything in quantum mechanics, but it eliminates the assumption that creates many of the puzzles, that there must be a definite way particles really are independent of measurement contexts. That's really funny because it really does seem like that measurement effects exist. We've got a few experiments that show that measurement actually affects what is measured. It's very strange that, he didn't talk about any of them. Your fear is the government bailout? Yep, Dojo, I'm afraid of that too. And he says, I've learned more about quantum physics. I've become fed up with how some people who don't know quantum physics interpret quantum physics to support woo-woo. Yes, that's true. Yeah. Caudillo, what's up? This is such shit philosophy. Why are we reading it? Because it's my 666th thing I'm reading, and I figured I'd just go shit on some bad philosophy. And this guy was complaining that no one reads his philosophy and takes him seriously. So how you doing, Caudillo? So I don't normally do this. I actually never do this, but it was an occasion, and I've not done anything for occasions. Like I didn't do anything for my 500th. I didn't do anything for my 100th. I didn't do anything for my 250th. I've done very few like special occasions, but for 666, fuck it. We're going to go tell someone why they're wrong. How you been? I hope you're doing okay. I hate read, yeah. And I'm going to have a good time with it because usually I come into these things being like hoping it's good. This time I didn't have that expectation. Good. I'm doing all right. The problem of other minds. How can you know others are conscious? Traditional approaches either assume that they need to prove or fall into skepticism about other minds. Under EE, other minds have the same epistemic status as physical resistance, logical necessity, or any other limitation pattern that constrains your experiential possibilities. You encounter behaviors, expressions, and responses that exhibit the systematic patterns characteristic of consciousness. What the fuck is consciousness? You can't say the systematic patterns of it without telling us what it is. And so what is that and how do you know what that is? And so now the next line is, the inference to other minds is no more problematic than the inference to persistent physical objects or mathematical relationships. Well, what is a physical object other than a mind-independent reality? What is a consciousness other than that, or except a reality out there? We haven't defined any of this, and it's like, okay, it's just another experience. But if everything's experience, you have not told us what anything actually is. So again, you haven't actually said that there's no problem with consciousness because it's all experiences, but then you have a flat ontology. You haven't told us what a physical object is or a consciousness is. It's just a pattern. But how do you distinguish between any of the fucking patterns? You can't. Yeah. What's up, Wise? So serious. How you been? F? Oh. Okay, it looks like it's coming back. Okay, sorry about the frames today. It's been bad. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, so. Yeah, if they've told us nothing of what consciousness is, nothing of what physics is, it's all experiences, but then they can't distinguish between anything anymore. There's just patterns, but what are the particular patterns of one or the other thing, and what are we calling? It's just like everything experience, so there's no outside reality. It's all just in your head anyway, and so what the fuck? Spending time working, playing Path of Exile, listening to those gracious enough to teach for free. The country's fucked. Health isn't the best, but I'm okay. Okay, I'm glad that you're doing all right. I mean, I hope you feel healthier or get healthier. But yeah. Okay. The key insight is that consciousness is not hidden behind behavior, but expressed through systematic patterns that can be empirically studied. Other minds, well, what kind of claim is that? What does that even fucking mean? I mean, it's not hidden behind behavior, but what is a systematic pattern then behind, except for behavior? Other minds are limitation patterns that surprise you, respond to you, and exhibit the complex systematic structure characteristic of conscious agency. Well, what is all of this shit then? You have to tell me. If you want this to be an explanation of anything, what is a pattern that explains anything? Yeah, sorry about the health stuff. Okay, so methodological implications. Scientific practice under EE. The formal apparatus of science requires no change under EE. See, this is the scientific fetishization of science. They should be an idealist, or probably an idealist, but they don't want to be an idealist, so they're trying to make empiricism idealism here. Because they don't want to change science, because they want to be like, oh no, I'm rigorous and like I like science. The same mathematical tools, experiential protocols, and statistical methods apply. What changes is the interpretation of what science is doing and what kinds of data count as legitimate empirical input. No methodological change is required. Same experiential design principles, same statistical analysis methods, same replication standards, same peer review process. Interpretive changes. Subjective reports become first-class empirical data. No assumption of mind-independent reality required. Focus on experiential patterns and limitations. Theory evaluation based on predictive success and conceptual clarity. So they've said nothing. They said leave science alone, except that we have to reinterpret it according to me, but that actually doesn't do anything. Then what's the fucking point of this theory? It also keeps replaying the drop frames instead of going to the most recent frames, which keeps making me weirded out. Yeah, I've noticed that on Twitch too. It's been doing that. That's right. Doger says, in this stream I learned that Morticia Addams is a real person. Well, I mean, the actor who played Morticia Addams is real. Whose article are we looking at here? So this is Experiential Empiricism, Empiricism Without Realism by Brandon Sergent. This is a non-peer-reviewed article this person just put up on Phil Papers, and I'm reading it because it's my 666th paper read, and I was like, I'm going to do something evil. I'm going to read something that this guy has been bitching about online, trying to say why no one fucking takes him seriously, and it's like, well, we're finding out why no one takes him seriously because it's not serious philosophy. I think your ISP is throttling my upload. No, I have enough upload. That's not it. Because the issue is there's a chance there's something going wrong in the house, because like maybe the heat's clicking on and it's fucking up the wiring between here and the router. That's probably what is more likely going on. I've actually fiber internet here, so it's really not problematic. Beaker kink? That's funny, Neil Bryan. And also, I mean, maybe Caldeo, but it'd be something very new. I mean, it'd be something very new. Yeah. Like, all of a sudden, the fiber internet is going to throttle me? Like, why? Okay. Integration of subjective data. There is the chance that this computer is dying, though. That would be sad. But that is also a chance. Okay. Integration of subjective data. One of EE's most significant practical advantages is its natural accommodation of subjective data. Under materialism, pain ratings, mood reports, qualitative descriptions, phenomenological accounts are all systematically devalued as merely subjective and therefore scientifically suspect. EE treats it as legitimate empirical phenomena worthy of systematic study. A patient's report of pain has the same empirical status as a temperature measurement or blood pressure reading. This enables more comprehensive, scientifically rigorous approach to medicine, psychology, and social science. That's really weird because people make shit up all the time where you can't make up a temperature reading. So if it has the same empirical status as a fucking... I've changed nothing. I've changed nothing about my upload. Like in years, I've changed nothing on my setup, so I don't know what's going on today. I apologize. Luminance, you're back. Had to get somebody to do the paper getting better. No, Luminance, it did not get better. Sockdown says on peer review papers, I usually would have a list of tons of sources in order to be legitimate, but this paper is not drawing off a philosopher. You have to build a base, and this guy seems like he hasn't built anything. Yeah, not built anything. There are no references. I think there's references coming up, but like everything this person's saying is just claims. Just claims. Okay, consider pain research. Under materialism, researchers often treat patient reports as unreliable subjective impressions of objective tissue damage. This leads to systematic undertreatment of pain and dismissal of conditions where tissue damage does not correlate with experienced pain. Under EE, pain reports are direct empirical data about experiential patterns. The goal becomes understanding how pain patterns relate to experiential patterns, including all those we call physical, rather than reducing pain to something else supposedly more real. I mean, yes, believe the patients, but that is not at all why people are like discounted as like people make shit up constantly. Now there's tons of bad reasons why doctors ignore patient reports, but there's also the very good reasons because, you know, sometimes people just want opiates and they're lying because they're like, I'm in lots of pain, give me Percocets, and that is also a thing. And so it's like, you know, there's drug abusers, okay, but like, you know, the idea that like, oh yeah, we have to treat all pain reports just like everything else. No, there is psychology going on. Like, it doesn't even make sense here. Stockton says, even if you have some claims, you have to relate back to some logic. You have to relate that some theory that you built, it has to stand up on its own. This one just a bunch of popsicle sticks and some Elmer's glue. And not even the Elmer's glue. It's like popsicle sticks all balanced. It doesn't even make sense. Douglas says, I have cable, not even fiber. I'm getting 256 ups. ISP could throttle the heck out of me and shouldn't impact video streams. Yeah, that's why I'm not thinking it's that. I only need a few like solid megabytes up to really hold my upload rate. And I'm not getting even, like, it's dropping. I think it's either this computer or it could be this computer. Like, it's, this is getting old, this computer. I'll think about getting another stream box. But yeah. I hope it's not this computer. I like just my setup as is, but what am I going to do? Okay. 6.3. Theory Evaluation Criteria. Experiential empiricism shifts the criteria for evaluating theoretical frameworks. Sockno says, the reason I say popsicle sticks down seems pretty elementary, like a student in a university is disgruntled with their philosophy professor and are in an intro course. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. Except, I mean, this guy ain't no spring chicken. I mean, he don't look that old either, but he ain't no spring chicken. For all I know, he's an AI guy. And, like, he's just an AI picture. Like, he's not even real. But, like, I don't think he's, like, he ain't no, like, intro student. So, Yeah, it's just, but like you're saying, it's not even 101 level philosophy. Now, the guy doesn't seem stupid, but he doesn't really understand how the arguments are put together. It's like he read this, he read that, he read some other thing. He said, oh, I've got it. You take this and you put it together here and everything works out. If it was that easy, my friend, it would have been done long time ago. Okay, so traditional criteria: predictive accuracy, explanatory power, and correspondent to mind-independent reality. And you know what's cool? Predictive accuracy and explanatory power, yeah. Correspondent to mind-independent reality, no one actually talks about that. You know, everyone knows this is a problem. Because you're saying, well, this is what we think the world is, but we know not everything works. So the EE thing, predictive accuracy, unchanged, conceptual clarity and economy, I mean, that's just explanatory power. Basically, these two things correlate. Systematic accommodation of all empirical data. No one ever said do not take in the empirical data. That's idiotic. And practical utility for intervention and control. That is, again, everything anyone wants to do with science. Maybe like Jenga? No, just kidding. Yeah. Isn't empiricism anti-realism? Not really. I mean, you're saying you're learning about the world, the empirical world. You're trying to find something about it. So it's like, yeah, you're trying to, like, you know, investigate the world, but we don't always have it right. So it's like, yeah. So Functor continues, like, empiricism did say that something like objective reality independent of experience exists. Yeah. So you're saying, like, there is the world out there and we're going to discover it. Maybe my stream is being the true evil. That sounds right, Ra. Like constructive empiricism. Adam's laughing. There's different versions of empiricism. I don't know all of them. I actually haven't thought about this in forever, to tell you the truth. So it's like, I don't even know what the different versions of empiricism or the flavors of it are at the moment. But like, if you take someone like Hume, where you say, okay, there's a world and we're doing empirical research. Now, you don't know causality. You can just say correlation doesn't imply causality, but you still assume there's a, what's it called? Like tapestry, I think, underneath. Like, there's some underlying reality, and that's what we're getting at. And we're trying to figure that out. Yeah. And then Kant comes along and is like, dude, you have all these impressions. How are you ever going to get there? The world in itself is not like, you have no access to that. But the idea is, in some sense, that we go look at what the world actually is, and that is somehow real. And I think that's close enough. I mean, chat, tell me if I'm wrong. Okay, so the thing here is the key difference is eliminating correspondence to mind-independent reality as a criterion, since this requires knowledge we cannot possibly possess. Instead, theories are evaluated based on their success at systematically organizing experiential patterns and successful intervention. Yeah, and this is the problem. Everyone knows this shit. Everyone knows this shit. I want to understand what's new about here. There's nothing new in this. This is the problem. I'm reading a dumb paper on purpose. Because everyone fucking knows all this shit already. This person doesn't understand the theories, and that's why they don't realize what they're saying is rehashed bullshit that has been litigated for the last 300 years. There ain't nothing new. Usually, Functor, there's something new, but today I'm reading some shitty philosophy on purpose. Quine wrote that there's only dogmas for empiricism. And I mean, yeah. So yeah, today I'm reading something. So if anyone's here that doesn't know what I'm doing, I'm reading something this guy's been complaining that no one takes him seriously, and it's because his philosophy sucks. I'm reading it and being like, it sucks. And all the things he's claiming either are under-described or should be obvious to anyone in the field. And it's like, that's how it goes. Sergent also, he says that you can judge your own psychology empirically well. There are arguments that you could already make that are in the realm of psychology to back up your philosophical claim, but he doesn't even do that. That's true. Like, he could have a better argument, like Sakno said, but he doesn't even have the better argument. That's funny. Okay, medical practice. There's a practical application, medical practice. EE trains for medical practice. How the fuck does this transform medical practice? By treating patient-reported outcomes as primary empirical data rather than secondary impressions of real biological processes. This has immediate practical benefits. Pain management. Pain patient reports become authoritative data about pain patterns rather than unreliable impressions of tissue damage. Did anyone fucking think that, like, when someone was saying they're in pain, we're talking about tissue damage inherently? We've got tons of evidence saying, like, you know, we've got tons of different kinds of pains that someone can be in. And so the idea that like it's impressions of tissue damage is, well, just has no idea what the guy has no idea what anyone's talking about. This enables better treatment of chronic pain conditions where tissue damage does not correlate with experienced pain. No fucking shit, Sherlock. Mental health. Subjective states like depression, anxiety, mood disorder are treated as legitimate empirical phenomena rather than an epiphenomena to reduce to brain chemistry. This enables more comprehensive treatments that address experiential patterns directly. How? How does this do anything? Yes, we're taking the patient's experience seriously. Everyone is okay with that. No one is saying don't do that. Now, maybe you don't like brain drugs, but they have pretty good outcomes too, especially if you do like therapy plus drugs and you use all the methods available. Generally, that helps with the outcomes. That's what we're trying to do here. You're not going to save everybody. You're not going to fix everything, but like there's nothing here that is like new or like was confused in the medical practice. Lots of people criticize Quine. So it's like, yeah. Quality of life. Measures of subjective well-being like life satisfaction and functional capacity become as scientifically valid as biomarkers and physiological measurements. Okay, great. What are you going to do about it, my friend? It's like, okay. The Quine wine. Fair. Psychology and social sciences. Psychology under experiential empiricism becomes the systematic study of experiential patterns rather than the attempt to reduce mental phenomena to brain states. I didn't think psychology was reducing everything to brain states. Faraday, how we doing? What were you up to? Were you still reading the good philosophy written by C.T. Nguyen? Barry, what's up, bro? Yeah, what's going on? How you doing, Baru? Shout out the Baru. Am I not Baru? There we go. It's working. Really? Is it working? That's interesting. That was interesting. Why did I misspell shout out? Is everything broken again? Thanks, Twitch. Shout out. Reading Games Artist Agents by C.T. Nguyen. Yeah, I like that guy's stuff. His stuff is good. His stuff is really good. Welcome in Raiders. Hi, if you don't know me, I'm Noah, Nogurt, No Great, whatever you want to call me. It's cool, just don't be a jerk. I'm reading some shitty fucking philosophy today because this guy was bitching on Phil People, which is like the LinkedIn for philosophers. No one reads me. No one takes me seriously. No one, I've solved all these problems. Oh God, his philosophy is terrible. He's not a serious person. Doesn't really understand other people's theories. Doesn't even understand what he's talking about. So it's my 666th thing I'm reading. I figure go be evil and just go shit on somebody. But you know what? I mean, I'd feel a little bit bad, but he deserves it. So how's your stream? How'd the Nguyen go? And if anyone here does not know our buddy Baraday, he's a continental philosopher, one of those nutcases. And no, he's great. He's working on charisma and philosophy of video games. And so it's like, what is it where, charismatic people get to violate, social norms, moral norms? These are like philosophical questions. Why do some people seem to get to violate rules of society? And so he's doing a study into that. So, yeah, just here for the drama. Exactly. So I don't normally shit on people on purpose, but this guy seems like to deserve it. So I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do this. But yeah, so he's making shit up left and right, has cited no sources, and basically has weird, customized, idiosyncratic takes on philosophies that he doesn't really understand. Okay, so this is how his theory, which is a weird idealism that he's calling empiricism, called EE, experiential empiricism. Psychology under EE becomes a systematic study of experiential patterns rather than the attempt to reduce mental phenomena to brain states. I don't know if psychology is all reducing mental phenomena to brain states. Maybe cognitive science, but I don't know about psychology. So I mean, maybe the psychoanalysts have a beef with what you just said about psychology here. But yeah, this eliminates the persistent problem of how to connect subjective reports to objective measurements. Social science benefits by treating social meaning, cultural significance, and collective experiences as legitimate empirical phenomena rather than subjective interpretations of objective social facts. So that solved all of how all of social science and psychology will be modified in these 3 3 sentences. Yeah, well, I try to give people a fair shake here on Philosophy Roulette. And I'm trying to give this guy a fair shake too, to be perfectly honest, but frankly, it's stupid. But like, yeah, it's like, I don't have to be overly charitable either. Yeah. Okay, so EE provides clear guidance for AI development by treating conscious reports as authoritative empirical data. An AI system claiming consciousness experience would be taken seriously as an empirical claim to be investigated systematically rather than dismissed a priori as impossible. I mean, no one doubts that. We have to be sure about it. Like, you can get any system to just, claim it's conscious by like putting out that sentence, I am conscious, but you have to investigate that. No one questions that. This framework also provides clear guidance. Systems capable of conscious experience deserve moral consideration proportional to their capacity for suffering and flourishing regardless of their substrate. Yeah, no one doubts that either. Like, if it can this is just animal ethics 101. If it can suffer, you should consider it as a moral patient at least, if not a moral agent, No one doubts this shit. Okay. You guys are talking amongst themselves. Policy and governance. Human well-being becomes a foundational consideration for policy rather than a secondary concern after objective economic metrics. Again, what the fuck does this talk about? Like, this thinks that because we're taking consciousness seriously, that all of a sudden no one else took human life seriously. Okay, but like, ridiculous? Because no one, what is actually being added here? Since conscious experience creates the foundation that makes any metrics meaningful, policies should be evaluated primarily on their effect on conscious experience. Again, they have said nothing on what conscious experience is outside of patterns of experiences. And so how does anything even relate to that? This doesn't even, they're saying it does, but how? You're not connecting what actually is going to happen in anything in your theory. It just says, oh, you got to take consciousness seriously. Okay, how? Because you haven't told us anything about consciousness or how to take it seriously. Okay, this does not eliminate economic considerations, but contextualizes them within a framework that recognizes conscious experience as fundamentally important rather than merely instrumentally valuable. Okay, but what is that framework? Right here. What framework? Within what framework? Useless. Objective responses. This is just solipsism. I said it was idealism, not solipsism. Objection. EE reduces everything to individual subjective experiences, making intersubjective knowledge impossible. Response. EE is ontologically neutral about what exists beyond individual experience. It simply avoids making unprovable assumptions about mind-independent reality. Intersubjective patterns within experience provide the foundation for objective knowledge without requiring assumption of an external world causing those patterns. Well, what the fuck is intersubjective then? What do you even mean by intersubjective then? How do you know it's intersubjective? Isn't it just subjective? What is intersubjective? Doesn't, not explain. The systematic reproducibility of an experiential pattern across different observers. Again, what's a different observer then? Are we assuming this? It looks like it's just assumed. Provides the same epistemological foundation that materialism claims to provide without the additional metaphysical commitments. But you just fucking assumed it right here. Right there, different observers. What counts as a different observer? No new predictions means no scientific value. Objection. If EE makes no new empirical predictions, it has no scientific significance. Response. The value is conceptual economy, foundational clarity, and the inclusion of previously excluded empirical domains. Science benefits not only from new predictions, but from theoretical frameworks that organize existing knowledge more systematically and eliminate unnecessary assumptions. Additionally, EE does enable new research programs by treating subjective data as legitimate empirical input. This opens previously ignored domains to scientific investigation. Yeah, no one was actually ignoring human reports. In psychology, they do this all the fucking time. I mean, this is people do this constantly. And secondly, you can't say that you're eliminating unnecessary assumptions and organizing knowledge more systematically in fucking a few pages. It's like you haven't actually organized anything. You've just like stated a few claims and said it's better this way, but that's not actually any organizational structure here. Like there's nothing here. I mean, sure, but like the existing knowledge and reorganization, you've done nothing up except for make a few claims. Common sense realism is obviously correct. Objection. Everyone knows there is an external physical world independent of our minds. Response. Common sense realism is philosophical theory, not an empirical discovery. The systematic study of experience reveals patterns that we interpret through various theoretical frameworks. Realism is one such framework, but it is not required to account for the empirical data. Again, just a claim, but like fine. It means, what do you mean by common sense? I mean, that's actually, it's like, I don't care about this. This is like the least wrong thing they've said, and it's still wrong because they don't understand what's going on, but, you know. Sure. Moreover, common sense has been wrong about numerous scientific questions. And that's fair. Like, this is what I'm saying. Is like, okay, sure. Well, what counts as common sense? The Earth seems flat. Objects seem to have inherent properties independent of measurement, context, and consciousness seems obviously different from physical processes. Scientific progress often requires abandoning common sense assumptions that create more problems than they solve. And this is the only like minor thing that they've said that's okay. It's like, yeah, obviously the naive view of reality is not going to work. That's what makes it the naive view of reality. But like, no shit, Sherlock, again. Okay, 8.4. This eliminates objective truth. Objection. Without mind and independent reality, there's no basis for objective truth. Response. EE preserves objectivity through intersubjective reproducibility. Again, they don't have any theory of intersubjective that makes sense. They just claim that there's something intersubjective, but they don't. They already set up within the solipsism area. Well, it's these patterns that make it obviously intersubjective with no fucking evidence. So, intersubjective reproducibility of experiential patterns, and we don't know what those are. Mathematical relationships, physical regularities, empirical discoveries maintain their objective status without requiring assumption of mind-independent existence. Truth corresponds to systematic experiential patterns rather than corresponds to unknowable external reality. This provides, see again, your truth is corresponding to the patterns of your consciousness. Idealism. It's just your idea is what the world is. This provides a more secure foundation for objectivity since it is based on an accessible evidence rather than unprovable metaphysical assumptions. Yes. Yeah, it's just idealistic. And there's different theories of meaning. Yep, that too. Let's see, where are we going? Oh, you guys are still talking back and forth on the Quine stuff, which is fine. Okay, ethical implications. Again, we're solving everything here. The foundations of value. EE provides a clear foundation for ethics that follows directly from its empirical insights. So I guess we're jumping the gap from like is to like should. Since conscious experience creates the foundation that makes anything matter at all, the well-being of conscious beings becomes the natural foundation for ethical evaluation. This is not an additional philosophical step, but the logical continuation of taking empiricism seriously. Once you recognize conscious experience as foundational rather than dismissible, the ethical implications follow with logical necessity. But what ethical implications follow? How do they follow? I mean, sure, consciousness, like this is panpsychism. So everything is conscious. Like, I mean, it's not a panpsychism in that everything is conscious outside, but that consciousness is basically fundamental. So it's just a different kind of panpsychism. But then what follows from panpsychism? Seriously, what? Like that's all this is like a weird fucking panpsychist version of idealism. Okay, resolving the Izot gap is what we're saying. The traditional Izot gap assumes a sharp distinction between empirical facts and value judgments. Under EE, this distinction dissolves because conscious experience provides both the foundation for empirical knowledge and the foundation for ethical significance. Again, claimed. How does it happen? I don't know. They don't say. Suffering is empirically observable and definitionally problematic. A framework that recognizes conscious experience as foundational cannot coherently dismiss suffering as empirically irrelevant or ethically neutral. The wrongness of unnecessary suffering becomes as empirically obvious as logical necessity. Okay, so suffering is also foundational as part of consciousness? Okay, sure. But like, what is it and how do we deal with it then? Come on. Like seriously. It's like no one doubts that suffering is bad. Although not all suffering is bad. You go work out, you're in pain because you have to lift heavy things and your muscles are sore. Is that suffering? Kind of. You're in some kind of pain, but you like it. So it's like, what exactly counts here? Like, only the suffering that counts in this person's weird consciousness theory? Sure, but again, define something about this. This is like, tells us nothing we actually want to know. Okay, 9.3. Well, 1.10.3, 9.3. Systematic implications. EE naturally leads to ethical frameworks focused on conscious experience and systematic improvement. This provides clear guidance for individual behavior. How? How, motherfucker, has anything been clear guidance for individual behavior? Social policy and civilizational priorities without regarding additional philosophical assumptions beyond those needed for empirical inquiry itself. What are we supposed to do about any of this? Okay, whose consciousness matters? Mine, yours, some other one, like this intersubjective bullshit? The more empirically grounded your worldview becomes through EE, what the fuck is empirically grounded? The more ethically clear your obligations become. This represents a fundamental unity between empirical and ethical reasoning that traditional frameworks struggle to achieve. It's amazing how much he solved in 10 pages. Implementation and future directions. 1.11.1 10.1 Translation of existing research. Existing scientific literature can be translated to EE neutral terminology without changing empirical content. Instead of claiming to study external physical processes, researchers describe their work as studying systematic experiential patterns and their limitations. This translation preserves all empirical insights while eliminating unnecessary metaphysical commitments that create philosophical problems. Yeah, so it's a semantic shift. It's irrelevant. Educational applications. EE provides a foundation for science education that avoids traditional philosophical puzzles while maintaining scientific rigor. Students can learn scientific methods and mathematical modeling without having to accept problematic assumptions about mind-independent reality. Comparative philosophy modules can help students understand the relationship between EE and traditionalist realist approaches, demonstrating how the same empirical insights can be interpreted through different theoretical frameworks. Hey, I'm all for having more philosophy in schools. That'd be great. I mean, don't study this theory, but like, sure. Technological development. Database and analysis tools could be developed that treat subjective reports as first-class empirical data with the same computational and statistical tools applied to traditional objective measurements. Bitch, we do this already. What the fuck do you think we're doing? This would enable more comprehensive approaches to medical research, psychological investigation, and social policy evaluation by systematically including previously excluded experiential data. Dude, if you motherfucker knew like some good research topics, I'm sure some scientists would love your good research topics. Anything you're saying has been well trod or tossed because it's crap at this point. Meta-analysis applications. Key domains could be reevaluated under EE framings to identify cases where unnecessary metaphysical assumptions have limited research programs or created false problems. Areas like consciousness studies, pain research, mental health, and social psychology would particularly benefit from systematic reevaluation under EE principles. Conclusion. Experiential empiricism represents a minimalist refactoring of empiricism that preserves everything valuable about scientific method while eliminating unnecessary philosophical problems. By treating experiential patterns as epistemic primitives rather than representations of unknowable external realities. Okay, there, Kant. Experiential empiricism provides a foundation that is simultaneously more empirical and less assumptive than traditional materialist approaches. The framework dissolves classical philosophical problems not by solving them, but by showing that they rest on unnecessary assumptions. The hard problem of consciousness, the subject-object gap, quantum measurement paradoxes, and the systematic exclusion of subjective data all disappear when we stop assuming that empirical inquiry requires inference to mind-independent realities. More importantly, experiential empiricism enables a more inclusive and ethically grounded approach to empirical inquiry. By treating conscious experience as foundational rather than dismissible, the framework naturally accommodates subjective data as legitimate empirical input while providing clear guidance for ethical reasoning based on the same foundations needed for empirical knowledge. The practical implications extend across medicine, psychology, AI development, and social policy. In each domain, EE enables more comprehensive and scientifically rigorous approaches by eliminating the artificial distinction between objective and subjective data that has limited traditional approaches. EE is not a new theory competing in the marketplace of ideas, but what happens when empiricism is pursued with sufficient rigor to question its own assumptions. The result is a framework that is more faithful to empirical method, more inclusive of empirical data, and more foundationally sound than traditional approaches. The formal apparatus of science requires no changes. We need only stop pretending we know more than we actually do and start treating the foundation of all meaning with the empirical respect it deserves. In doing so, we discover that the most empirical approach of all is working directly with what we actually encounter rather than making unprovable inferences to what we can never access. And that is the end of this. And, they do throw some references in here, but none of them are referenced in the actual paper. So it's just basically just, a smattering of stuff. But anyway, as we always do here, and if you're here, you get to rate the paper if you want. You get to use the emotes. If this paper made you brain dance, give you some fun ideas, and made you brain dance, you can give it a brain dance. Nog Scream for existential artistic drama. Nog Oro or Ouroboros for deep ancient ideas. Nog Knife for slicing and dicing arguments. Nog Navel gazing only for academics. Nog Turd, all style, no substance, still poop underneath. And Nog Grapes for big claims that shrivel up. He hasn't defined anything, so you're giving him an F? Yeah. Random drops of uber famous philosophers? Yep, exactly. This is what I saw a different paper of his. He just threw in a reference here and there about that. So, and you can also use the global vote nay, as Functor has, and vote yay of Twitch, or also my vote meh. Note, I do calculate an overall score. Anything in the green makes the score up, anything in the red makes it goes down, and the vote meh makes everything go towards the middle. Gay Parties gave it a grapes and a golden turd. Functor gave it a nay. Thank you. What was Functor saying? Up here, let me take a look. Okay, I understand when I read Kant, I had the same counter-argument against the definition of analytic judgment. I think it's really vague because it doesn't say what predicate is necessary for some words, but I think it's just to say analytic statements is just tautologies, and we don't have a problem because any statement is all back to, okay, you're still doing on the Quine stuff. Yeah. Unreal says, nay, nay, meh, turd, and onin. What's an onin? What is that just... Laughing, you just get grapes? Yeah. This is grapes. The man made giant claims that do not love. Dojo said you could be evil too. You're gonna put a brain dance on this? Go right ahead. This is only Twitch chat. There's nothing else to it. And Nog Turd, because they thought they had style, but they had no substance. So yeah. Vote at the navel grapes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is also Nog Navel. Very navel gazing. That's a good point there, Ra. We're going to do that. So, yeah. But thank you all for rating. Ra, thank you for the nay. Unreal Brown, thank you for the nay. Turd. Laughing Jesus, thanks for the grapes. Dojo, thank you for the brain dance. Own and biblical master. I thought that's what it was, but I didn't I was like, is that what he means? The mental masturbation of someone thinking they're so clever and oh, I'm so clever, I'm going to write something so smart. I like it because I found out about the Munchausen trilemma. How did this relate to the Munchausen trilemma? But okay. You maybe understood Quine's, misunderstood Quine's critique. Yeah, Quine is a legit philosopher. And so... it's not always the easiest thing. Energy what I've read is, navel gazing grapes and a nay. Lumen says the grapes, turd and a nay. Energy also gave it a meh also. Cool. Yeah, Onan, the second son of Judah in the book of Genesis, biblical. If you're known for refusing to fulfill the levirate marriage custom after his brother Er died, he intentionally spilled his semen on the ground during his relation with the widowed sister-in-law Tamar to avoid producing an heir for his brother. Consequently, God struck him down for his selfishness. Yeah, so it's he didn't want to fuck his brother's wife, and so he kind of whacked off on the ground, and that's why the old word for masturbation is onanism. Yeah. This is the most grapes paper I've ever seen. 11 pages to prove claims that are huge. Yeah, and that's exactly what this comes down to. This guy is like, why won't anyone take me seriously? Is because you don't actually know how to argue for any of the claims that you're making. You just think, okay, I've got this thing and this solves all the problems if everyone just would understand it, but they don't define their terms in a way that actually will hold up to scrutiny, and so it's vague or ambiguous, and so whatever they want it to mean is what it happens. And that's, the basis of a lot of bad philosophy. I mean, sometimes people are just wrong, and that could be bad. But like, this is just incompetent because they didn't like actually make clear definitions in terms of things that will hold up. And I don't even want to say clear definitions. They didn't even make definitions that will hold up. They just declared consciousness to be fundamental without explaining what it is, and somehow thought that would solve all the problems. Once consciousness was fundamental, then we had direct access to the world or these patterns, but that fails because you can't distinguish anything in the world at that point, except they say, well, there's experiential patterns. What are those patterns? How do you make distinguishing things between it? What is consciousness then? I mean, I don't have to say it's a thing in the world. I'm just saying, what is it? That still exists. Luhmann said Wagner told Nietzsche's doctor behind his back that Nietzsche's headaches were because of onanism and permanently ended their friendship. Yeah, that's a famous story. I've heard that before. I didn't know it was his doctor, but that's funny. Dory said, I had to look at Barclay, which led to Popper, which led to critical rationalism, and led to the guy saving himself and his horse by pulling on his own hair up. Yeah, he pulled his own hair, pulled up by bootstraps. I think the author is simply pulling on his own hair, trying to fly. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. It's a circle jerk here. So it's like, yeah, he's pulling on his own hair. It's a circle jerk. He thinks he's like, oh, this because of that and that because of this. And it's like you've got the circularity where nothing actually makes sense. Luhmann says Husserl treated bracketing as a specialized philosophical method rather than recognize it as the foundation of all empirical inquiry. Yeah, like there's actually a very important reason he did that with problems coming up this author would need to address. That was the problem. They just assumed that bracketing was anything, and it's not like bracketing is well defined even in Husserl, and that's part of the issue that Luhmann is saying, is because there's difficulties understanding what this is and what is bracketing exactly. So it's like you can have a skeptical perspective. You can say, well, I'm going to, withhold judgment, but what does that mean in practice is like hard. Have to be much more specific. There's nothing you can teach about the raising of the wrist. So, yeah. If anyone else wants to get a rating in on this, I mean, we knew it was going to be rough. I kind of picked it because it was going to be rough. But it's like, this is what happens when someone does not understand the feedback they've been given or doesn't understand the way arguments are put together in philosophy more generally. Funk Thor says, all philosophy is just mental masturbation. Wittgenstein. Yeah, basically. I mean, there's definitely parts of doing philosophy that, pretentiousness is a job hazard. Just like, feeling like you're just making yourself feel good about yourself. That's also a job hazard in philosophy. It's like, oh, I'm so clever. I've come up with this stuff. But it's like, there's also the benefits. It's like, some of the ideas are cool. Some of this stuff does actually lead to like cool other theories. Like other people do like it. So it's like, it's not only for my benefit. Like if I work on philosophy, because I do, but it's like, there's other benefits. I always say, the measure of philosophy is asking interesting questions, like important questions. It's like people appreciate that shit. So, yeah. Luhmann says, yeah, and Husserl didn't treat bracketing as foundation for empirical inquiry because that would fall back into idealism. Given he talks about that length, I don't think the author actually read Husserl. Yes, I mean, I was calling this guy completely idealistic the whole fucking time. Diogenes approves of this message. Sorry for ruining that. Yeah.